About, I guess, almost 25 years earlier, you moved into 132 East 62nd Street. You were telling us how you acquired this house and what the street was like. What was the Can you tell us about, physically, about the house, what it looked like then, and some of the changes that have taken place during the course of the years? Because would it be accurate to say how central this house was in your own professional lives, because it became the form of so much of your entertaining?
Well, it certainly was the form of our entertaining. When we first bought this house, Bennett had been in it to parties. It belonged to the Barnes. It had been a wedding gift to Trishie and Cortland Barnes Jr. from his parents who lived next door. At the time we bought the house, the whole street was private houses. There were no today there are houses, still the private houses that are here, low brownstones, some with stoops, some without, some American basements. Across the street from us lived Jane Wyatt's mother. She was an actress, and lovely house it is. Next door to that was the Federal House, which is a red brick house, quite beautiful. It's now painted yellow, and a restaurant is in it. Then there was a house that the Amadons owned and built. He was an architect, that has a swimming pool in the back of it, and it still exists. It's a New Orleans front house on this block, which Amadon rented to Boris Karloff. I remember Boris Karloff was then playing in Arsenic and Old Lace, and we used to entertain him here. We introduced him to yes it is Carl, Charles Adams. Charles Adams, the cartoonist, not Carl Rose, the cartoonist, to Charles Adams, the cartoonist, because Bennett thought it was funny. And he wanted Boris Karloff to do an introduction to Charles Adams' drawings, which indeed he did do. I've forgotten which collection of drawings it was. And so the block was. Today we've fought very hard to keep its character of residential character, and we've done that by planting trees that the city used to plant and take care of, and when they stopped doing it, I gave the 3 blocks a present of trees and flowers, and no one quite knew what was happening. But when the first daffodils came up, I wrote to them and said that Bennett and I had been the fairy godmother and father of the trees and the plantings, and we asked if they would continue the upkeep. We figured it would cost about $75 a tree a year in dues, and because of that, we formed the East 62nd Street Association, which has been very strong in this neighborhood, I think, in maintaining its residential character, because the police department, when John Lindsay was mayor, was going to put parking meters in on this block. Instead, we, with the Block Association strength, got them to not put them in, and to also to disallow all parking on this block between the hours of 8 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, so that the streets could be cleaned, and also because we are a main thoroughfare, really, in the sense that we are an entrance. Our block leads to the entrance of the East River Drive. The honking and clattering and so forth was impossible. So that was...
Actually, just about the time that you moved here, the East River Drive opened. Wasn't it about 1940?
I think that Bob tells me that LaGuardia rushed it through so that it would be ready for the World's Fair, and that's Robert Wagner, my now husband. And he was then, I believe, either an assemblyman or... when he was a city planning. I mean, he had the same job that his son, Bob Jr., now has. But at that time, he may have been Manhattan Borough president. I'm not certain. But in any case, he tells me that LaGuardia rushed it through so it would be ready for the World's Fair, the East River Drive. And it was, I know.
1941, wasn't it?
Well, 39,
39.
I think, the World's Fair. Because I remember going on the East River Drive and with Bennett to go to the World's Fair. But it's one of the reasons, I mean, there's certain sections of it that are caving in, which is why Bob told me about it, that it was hurried so quickly to have it ready that it wasn't truly properly done. But
Still almost 40 years of a road.
yes,
Heavily trafficked
road, and it was marvelous and is marvelous as far as New York is concerned.
What shape was this house in when you moved in?
The house was in.
And as a long-term designing woman, what did you do about it?
Well, I naturally was put in charge of detail. Bennett, however, I'll show you how. Bennett hired the architect, Robert Heller, who was a very talented man, brilliant architect. And curiously, he had working under him Bernie Geiss, who was a publisher of Jacqueline Suzanne's first book. Brother was the young architect on this building. Now, Robert Heller was a man who had never had the privilege before of taking a New York house, gutting it, and making it over. And he was quite thrilled with the job and determined to do it exactly the way he wanted to. Bennett was determined to have it the way he wanted, and I was determined to have it the way I wanted. So we were three people with each definite ideas of who was going to say what happened in the house. Well, fortunately, Bob and I got the architect and I got along very well when it came to the kitchen. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He thought of things that really in my wildest dreams I would never have thought of, like slots to put trays in, serving trays. He thought of the fact that we should really not dine on the second floor. The house was set up with a kitchen on the lower floor, and on the second floor a dining room, and on the second floor there was a pantry and stairs leading from the kitchen up to the pantry. And in back of the kitchen on the ground floor there was a servant's room for the servants to sit in. It had been the old kitchen of the house and a laundry room. Well, all of that was gutted, and the back laundry room became at that point an office for Bennett with modern windows on it, and abutted the dining room, which had a large picture window looking out on the back, was to be our back garden, and a dining room, which was I didn't mind the modern window, but he put what I called inside of a cigar box plywood on the walls, which I just loathed. I felt it was the color of a cigar box, the texture of a cigar box, and I hated it. But I was told that it was the economical, easy way to do it, and everything was made flush, and there was no paneling, and all of the old fireplace was torn out that was in the kitchen. And, well, I lost that fight. Then the next floor was really made into a wonderful floor. Here we had total agreement, where it was to be a living room floor. What had once been the dining room became a second living room, and once where the stairways had come up the steps, there became a circular bookcase, but beneath it a sink hidden by formica. And so that it became a wet bar in the middle of these two living rooms. The library was in the back. Now, Bennett had an extraordinary way of, he hated adjustable shelves for books, which is amazing when you realize that here's a man who collected books all of his life, but he hated it when they were adjustable. Well, he designed...
Did he find the construction early on too flimsy? Because it seems to me that's exactly what he would like, since his books came from pocket size to encyclopedia size.
They didn't, though. The books that you'll have to remember that there were really no pocketbooks when we built this house. I mean, it was just a beginning. It was a beginning, and books were fairly standard. I mean, you could get the big books, and he designed the bottom shelves to carry the big art books, the big non-such press books, the limited editions books. The bottom shelves were built there. All others bookshelves were measured, and by what he determined would be a normal measurement for books.
What was the ideal bookshelf for Bennett Cerf, do you recall? The dimensions, the depth, and the height?
Well, the room that we're sitting in now reflects the change in book publishing. The fact that we now have, in the rooms that were done later, we have an adjustable bookshelf. But in the rest of the house, except for this room, the bookshelves were made modern library size, which I assume is about 7.5, 8 inches with airspace above it.
Much smaller format than is used now.
That's right. Then the next novel size up, and then sort of what I would call reference book size.
Can you estimate the size of your mutual book collection?
No, I had I think probably there's someplace between 7,500 and maybe 10,000 books in this house, because there are books in every room. Bennett and I, with the exception of one room, Bennett and I had many a fight about this because I wanted paintings on the walls and he wanted books on every wall. So he finally gave me one room, which was the living room in the house on the second floor, where there would be no books. But otherwise, there are books, for instance, in the little office downstairs,
off the dining room.
There are books in the sitting room, no, in the library, and books in the sort of entrance hall between the living room and the library.
It's a room in itself.
Which is a room in itself. There are books in our bedroom, not on the walls, but on tables and in the night tables. We have a closet that runs, an inner closet, a brilliant thing of Bobby Heller again, to give us a passageway between what is now my office, was our mutual office, here on the third floor, the bedroom floor of our house. And there is an inner hallway. And that also is not only filled with clothes, but filled with books. That inner hallway meant that we could go from the bedroom into this workroom without going into the main hall of the building, which made a difference as the children were growing up. Sometimes they had friends over and one was not quite dressed or in a bathrobe, and yet you could pass back and forth between the two rooms. But there were rooms, there were books there. Now, in the office that we sit in, we've determined there's someplace between 1,000 or so books. Then you go upstairs to what was once the children's rooms. Those, too, are filled with books. There are bookcases in both of the children's room, and in what was once Christopher's room, there are built-in bookcases. In what was Johnny's room, the bookcases are standing ones, wall.
Are there 2 bedrooms on that
There are
floor?
2 bedrooms on that floor. There are really 2 rooms in these private houses. There are 2 rooms to a floor is rather the way it works in a 20-foot house. And the depth of it, it depends upon when it was built. This house was built about 100 years ago, at which time the law said that you could only build to X number of feet in the property to the end of your property line. So that this house and the house next door to me both have backyards, and yet as I look at my neighbors, their houses were built at different times, and their houses extend the full length of their property, and they have no gardens or backyards.
Do you know anything about the original architect or owner or
Of this
facade
house?
of this house?
No, the facade was the way it was when we bought it. It was a brownstone American basement. Many houses have been converted to an American basement. American basement, I gather, is one where you go down a few steps to enter the house. The stoop house, and there are some on this block, you go up to enter. You go upstairs, and below are the kitchen areas or basements and so forth. But in our house, you go down a few stairs to enter. Well, that's how many books we have. And I must say that the paintings that I bought, I fought Bennett with every step of the way because, as I say, he wanted to have books, and I wanted paintings. And finally we made a deal, which was that I could buy the paintings if I wanted to with my own money, and that he, with one provision, that I couldn't hang it if he didn't like it. Well, this meant that I missed paintings by people which I brought home and dutifully hung up by people such as Chagall and Miro.
They were in this house and you had to return them?
And I had to return them, yes.
And what period was that, and what was Bennett Cerf's objection to them?
He didn't like modern painting. What Bennett liked, and he bought a couple of paintings that he liked, were basically Grandma Moses, though I liked Grandma Moses, but I didn't want to buy Grandma Moses. It's interesting. Bennett was modern when it came to architecture. I was old style architecture, liking the final things, traditional things or whatever, antiques and furniture, and in the style of a house. Bennett loathed modern painting, and I loved modern painting.